While my husband was away on business, my 19-year-old son, Adam, revealed his feelings for me. Our tumultuous and bewildering emotions led us to cross a boundary. Even after my partner came back, I continued to keep in touch. I find myself at a crossroads, uncertain of the next steps to take. On a tranquil Friday, I experienced the most intense and exhilarating night of my life. Reclining on my back, I gazed at the soft, shadowy designs of moonlight dancing across the ceiling. My thoughts swirl in a haze of confusion and unease. A sense of solitude enveloped me as my husband Mike was away for yet another 2 months, leaving me without his presence for 3 weeks now. It was only when the subtle creak of the door pierced the stillness that I realized I was not alone. I rose gradually, my gaze fixed on the shadowy figure lingering in the doorway. Adam, my son, stood there, his broad shoulders cast in shadow by the faint glow of the hallway light. He halted, one hand clutching the doorframe as though it were his sole anchor to the ground. He uttered, "Mom," with a softness that carried a hint of uncertainty. I rubbed my eyes, a knot tightening in my chest as his words echoed in my mind. "What seems to be the issue?" I posed a question. He remained silent for a moment, his figure frozen in place as his shadow stretched across the room. After a while, he entered, his bare feet making soft thuds against the carpet. There was an unsettling quality to his movements, each one laced with caution and a hint of fear, which thickened the atmosphere in the room. "Rest eluded me," he confessed, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. My eyes flicked to the clock resting on my nightstand. The clock struck 2 in the morning. Adam was not the type to rouse me from slumber unless something truly troubled him. As I swung my legs over the bed, a tightness gripped my chest, urging him to draw nearer. "What is happening?" I asked softly. He hesitated once more before settling on the edge of the bed, his posture erect and his hands firmly clasped in his lap. I watched him intently for a moment, yet he remained focused on the ground, a palpable anxiety radiating from his being. "Adam, you can talk to me," I whispered gently. "No matter what it may be, I stand ready." He inhaled shakily, his fingers twisting the hem of his t-shirt with uncertainty. It proves to be quite challenging to articulate. He confessed, in the end, that he had been feeling something stirring within him. "A peculiar sensation has enveloped me, leaving me uncertain of the path forward." His remarks sent a chill of unease coursing through me. In spite of the unease twisting within me, I leaned in just a bit and maintained a steady tone. "In what ways do they diverge?" He looked up at me, his eyes probing mine with a fervor that caught me off guard. "It concerns an individual whose voice he described as diminishing, a person who has occupied my thoughts quite frequently, a figure you might not expect." A fleeting spark of relief coursed through me. It seems this tale revolves around a girl in the school setting. A fleeting infatuation. He found himself at a loss regarding how to proceed. Adam had perpetually maintained a quiet demeanor regarding his feelings, allowing them to accumulate within him until they became too much to bear. "Very well," I responded, offering him a reassuring smile. "Whom do we have here? Is it someone from school?" With a quick shake of his head, his eyes fell once more. He replied in a hushed tone, "It is not an individual from the school." Then, whom I gently pressed, yet an odd sense of dread began to creep into my chest. "Adam, share with me whatever it is on your mind. Together, we will find a way through it." He inhaled deeply, his chest expanding and contracting, as though he were calling forth courage from within. As he began to speak once more, a quiver laced his voice. "It's you, Mom," he finally uttered. "From the very beginning, it has always been you." The words crashed over me like a powerful tide, rendering me momentarily speechless. For a moment, I found myself at a loss for words and thoughts. Thoughts swirled in my mind, struggling to grasp the weight of his words, yet the effect was enough to leave me unsteady. "Adam," I started, my voice trembling, "what exactly are you trying to convey?" He stood suddenly, pacing the room like a caged creature, his hands raking through his hair, pulling at the strands as if trying to wrestle the words from his mind. "I see how that may come across," he responded quickly. "I am fully aware of the gravity of my actions, Yet I find myself unable to restrain my impulses. I have made my attempts. No matter how much effort I exert to cast it aside and pretend it doesn't exist, it lingers persistently in the background. I gazed at him, my heart racing so fiercely that his words barely registered in my ears. "Adam, please don't suggest that this isn't sincere," he faltered, his voice cracking. "You grasp the essence of my emotions. This feeling I have for you is unlike anything I've ever experienced with anyone else. It transcends mere admiration or a fleeting infatuation. It delves far deeper." "Adam," I murmured once more, my voice quivering with emotion. "You are my son, and what you are feeling does not embody love. It is truly remarkable." "It's love," he declared, his voice thick with feeling. "Mom, you mean the world to me. You are the sole individual who has truly grasped my essence, the only one who has ever instilled in me a sense of value. How can this not be love?" Tears brimmed in my eyes as I struggled to grasp the meaning of his words. My son, my cherished boy whom I had nurtured and adored, was revealing feelings that eluded my comprehension. Though I could not reciprocate the feelings, there was a stirring within me, a peculiar blend of emotions I was reluctant to acknowledge. Upon reflection, I now understand that I was unaware of it. Initially, I think I tried to brush it aside. "Adam, you find yourself in a state of confusion. You are navigating a tumultuous sea of emotions at this moment, and perhaps these feelings are not as perplexing as they seem," he remarked, shifting his gaze to meet mine. His eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a haze of emotion clouding their depths, while his jaw was clenched tight, radiating a fierce resolve that twisted my heart with an ache. Never before have I felt such unwavering certainty. I laid my eyes upon it. In that moment, I sensed the undeniable pull he felt towards me. Though it pained me to do so, I found myself compelled to turn a blind eye, for as his mother it was a necessity. I extended my hand and rested it gently on his arm. "Adam," I whispered softly, "these emotions are transient. I assure you that they will come to an end. As they unfold, clarity will emerge in your observations." "What happens if they don't?" he murmured, his voice faltering. "What if this is my true self? What if this is the emotion I am meant to experience?" My throat tightened, rendering me momentarily speechless. The answer he sought eluded me. Uncertainty enveloped me as I grappled with the task of easing the torment reflected in his gaze. All I could do was cling to the hope that time would unveil clarity, and that this moment would not come to define us. "In this journey, you are accompanied by many others." At last, I found my voice, trembling yet steadfast. "We will navigate this together, Adam." He gazed at me for what felt like an eternity, his eyes brimming with vulnerability, stirring a deep ache in my heart. "I can't bear the thought of losing you, mother," he murmured gently. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you." "You shall not," I replied with conviction, seizing his arm. "No matter the circumstances, my presence will remain steadfast. How about joining me this evening? Maybe it will provide some solace," I whispered, as I turned back to my sheets. He nodded slowly and stepped into the bed. I pulled him closer, sensing an unspoken emotion that lingered between us. I bid him good night, my dear, and he returned my gaze with a smile. The silence that ensued was heavy, yet not unbearable. The silence enveloped them, rich with unspoken promises, both fragile and authentic. As he shut his eyes, a glimmer of hope ignited within me, suggesting that we might endure this tempest, regardless of how insurmountable it seemed. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was just the dawn of something greater. A night such as this was destined to unfold once more, yet it would conclude in an entirely different manner. This time, nothing transpired, yet the anticipation loomed, particularly with a relationship as intricate as this. Love does not quietly diminish, it insists on being acknowledged. Yet, I remained utterly unaware of how that reckoning would manifest itself. The dawn that followed Adam's revelation seemed almost surreal. The usual hush of the house enveloped me, a heavy, suffocating pause that lingered in the air. Each corner, each familiar object appeared to echo the silent tension that lingered between us. I endeavored to occupy myself with household tasks, convinced that the routine would anchor my restless spirit. As I folded the clothing, my hands quivered, and a whirlwind of unanswered thoughts surged through my mind. What did this truly signify for us? For him? Is this for me? The jarring noise of a chair scraping against the kitchen floor startled me. Adam lingered at the table, his gaze fixed on a bowl of cereal that appeared as unblemished as my coffee. His hair lay in disarray, and his eyes bore the weight of exhaustion. He hadn't slept, and neither had I that morning. I ventured to speak, carefully shattering the stillness that enveloped us. He gazed upward, his expression a mystery. "Morning," he replied, his voice rough around the edges. I filled my mug with another cup of coffee, the sound echoing in the quiet room, more pronounced than it needed to be. I took my seat beside him at the table, and the space that separated us seemed simultaneously expansive and intimately near. For a brief moment, silence enveloped us both. All that remained unspoken lingered in the atmosphere. I began to recount the events of last night to Adam, but he cut me off. I meant every word I spoke. He articulated his thoughts with conviction, even as a storm brewed within his gaze. I shall not feign ignorance of my actions. I shut my eyes for a moment, compelling myself to stay silent. "I understand your honesty," I murmured gently. "Yet, Adam, what you are experiencing transcends our capacity to manage. It is not a matter we ought to pursue." He reclined in his chair, fingers clutching the edge of the table. "What's stopping us?" he inquired. His voice carried a hint of irritation. "Why must love conform to rules and limitations? Isn't love intended to be unbound?" I inhaled deeply, seeking the right words to express my thoughts. "Love transcends mere emotions." I provided an explanation to Adam. "It revolves around taking actions that are just and advantageous for everyone involved. Your words have the potential to wound us both." He averted his gaze, his jaw tightening with resolve. "I have no desire to cause you pain," he murmured softly. "That is the very last thing I desire." "I understand," I remarked, extending my hand across the table to rest gently on his. "I have no desire to cause you pain either. That is the reason we must exercise caution. A method must be discovered to navigate this situation." His fingers tightened their grip around mine. For a fleeting moment, I beheld him as the boy he had once been, the child who clutched my hand in fear, seeking my guidance and solace. Yet this was unlike anything else. His gaze toward me had shifted, carrying a new weight. He expressed uncertainty, saying, "I'm not sure if I can get over it." His voice drifted like a faint whisper. "Yet, I will make an effort," as emotions surged within me at the thought of you. I gently squeezed his hand. "That is all I request." The ensuing days unfolded in a tumult of uncomfortable conversations and a facade of normalcy. Adam sought to preserve his solitude by retreating to his room or lingering outside the home for extended periods. I persuaded myself that it was the wisest course of action. The environment would provide him the opportunity to reflect on his feelings. Yet I find myself longing for him. All had transformed, even the effortless connection we once shared. Each night we find ourselves in the same bed, ever since he revealed his truth. Yet, I perceived a chasm growing between us. As I busied myself in the kitchen, the sound of the front door creaking open and then shutting echoed through the house. Adam stepped into the kitchen, his hair soaked from the downpour. He gazed at me for an extended moment, as though weighing the decision to speak. "Hey," I said, making an effort to maintain a cheerful demeanor. "You've arrived just at the perfect moment. The dinner hour approaches, and the meal is nearly complete." He hesitated before responding. Instead, he approached the counter and rested against it. With his arms crossed, he finally conceded. "Contemplation has occupied my mind." "What was this all about?" "I asked about us," he replied. His eyes held a firm resolve. In light of my words from that evening, I took a deep breath and steeled myself. In an instant, I recognized the night he was alluding to. "Certainly, Adam," I replied. I was under the impression that we had come to an understanding. I acknowledge his interruption, and I have no intention of engaging in a dispute. I feel compelled to express this thought. I inclined my head and gestured for him to proceed. I find myself grappling with these emotions, seeking a way to navigate through them. His words flowed gently, yet held a resolute strength. In that moment, a revelation dawned upon me. I wish to hold on to what we share. Mom, regardless of the outcome, I would choose you as my mother every time over the thought of losing you. Absolutely. Relief washed over me, yet it was tinged with the sorrow in his voice. Adam, you shall not lose me. I declared, regardless of the circumstances, I shall forever stand by your side. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. His lips draw into a narrow line. I comprehend. He claimed his voice was gentle, yet it feels anything but. It is profoundly challenging. I edged nearer and rested my hand upon his arm. It will require patience, I noted softly. Yet, Adam, your strength is undeniable, and I am here to support you in every possible manner. Our gazes intertwined. For a fleeting moment, the strain that hung between us seemed to ease. Thank you, Mom, he murmured gently. This holds significant importance. We lingered in the kitchen, the rain pounding relentlessly against the windows. After days of uncertainty, a glimmer of hope emerged, and I sensed that we would be all right. Yet, life often has a way of entangling situations when you least anticipate it. Just when I believed we had achieved a semblance of tranquility, an unforeseen event emerged, casting a shadow over all that Adam and I had built. A tenuous agreement, sustained for a time, delicate yet operational. He made an effort to smile more, to laugh at my jokes, to share meals with me as he once did. I clung to those moments, convincing myself that progress was being made. Yet, in the stillness of the night, as silence enveloped the home and I found myself alone with my reflections, the heaviness of his revelation remained palpable. Upon returning home after a lengthy day at the office, I caught sight of Adam in the living room. He reclined on the couch, his gaze fixed vacantly on the flickering screen of the television. The faint echoes of a laugh track from an old sitcom reverberated oddly in the otherwise silent room. He glanced up as I stepped in, his expression a mystery. I took a seat beside him and inquired, "Are you all right?" He gave a slight shrug. Indeed, lost in contemplation. A moment of uncertainty held me back from voicing any specific thought. He chuckled gently, yet the sound held no trace of humor. What thoughts elude my mind? My stomach churned with unease. Adam, I had hoped we were moving beyond this. I'm trying, he said quickly. I truly am, yet the situation is far from straightforward. Feelings cannot be extinguished at will, as if flipping a switch. I understand that my response was gentle, and I don't anticipate a reply, yet it is essential for us to continue our efforts for the benefit of us both. He pivoted to meet my eyes, his stare searching for connection. Have you ever pondered it? He inquired suddenly, his tone hushed, regarding our relationship. Envision a world where circumstances take a different turn. My heart stopped at his question, surprised. Adam, do not deceive me, he implored. His tone conveyed a sense of urgency rather than authority. I implore you to share the truth with me. I averted my gaze, my mind swirling with a flurry of thoughts. The truth was challenging. I found myself ensnared in a web of emotions that eluded my comprehension. Certainly, it crossed my mind. How could I possibly refrain considering his words? Yet, to acknowledge those feelings, even to my own heart, felt like stepping over a threshold from which there was no return. Regardless of my previous thoughts, I finally confessed, striving to keep my voice steady. What matters is that you choose the right path. This is not accurate. With a weary sigh, he raked his fingers through his tousled hair. I understand your perspective, but what if the answer is no, Adam? I interjected. With conviction, one might ponder, what if this conversation were never to take place? He gazed at me intently, his face a canvas of frustration and despair. He finally confessed, a tremor of fear evident in his voice. Indeed, I confessed, for this matter extends beyond just you and me. It encompasses all that we have constructed and the entirety of what we stand to lose. Yet I was not being truthful. Fear gripped me, yet it stemmed from misplaced concerns. There was a lingering hesitation within me as I contemplated revealing the emotions that had been stirring in my heart over the past few days. A realization I hesitated to confront. He remained silent. The silence that ensued was overwhelming. At last, he stood, his movements rigid and unhurried. "I am embarking on a stroll," he announced as he neared the door. Adam paused. I began, yet he had already departed. Time dragged on, with every passing minute stretching into what seemed like an endless expanse. I positioned myself by the window, observing the life unfolding on the street below. With every fleeting second, my fear intensified. Adam failed to make his return. It was nearly the stroke of midnight. As the door creaked open, I dashed to the entryway, a wave of relief washing over me as I beheld him step inside, soaked to the skin from the relentless rain. "Adam, where have you been?" I questioned, my voice trembling as I walked. He remarked, casually tossing the water from his hair. I retrieved a towel from the bathroom and handed it to him. "Illness is on the horizon for you." I noted my anxiety overflowing. He let out a heavy sigh, unmistakably vexed. "It's impossible to just vanish in such a manner." My mind required a thorough cleansing. He described the act of drawing the towel across his face. "Was it beneficial?" I inquired, my arms crossed defiantly. He cast a look in my direction, his eyes deep and inscrutable. He spoke softly, "Not really." There was an unmistakable quality in his tone that caused me to pause. I inched nearer and softened my tone. "Adam, we cannot continue in this manner. It is tearing us asunder." Though his words were barely a whisper, I find myself at a loss for how to bring it to a halt. "It seems we might require some help." I suggested that someone consult with a therapist. His lips curled into a bitter smile. "Do you believe a therapist will understand this?" "They might," I replied, though uncertainty lingered in my mind about whether I truly believed it, or if it would guide us in determining our next steps. He shook his head, and the towel fell to the floor. "This mother remains beyond the reach of any cure. No one has the power to influence my emotions." His words lingered in the atmosphere, dense and resolute. I felt the urge to challenge him and assert my perspective. Yet beneath the surface, I recognized the truth in his words. The most heartbreaking aspect was that I had not yet revealed to him that I too harbored feelings, that I was the one misleading him, trying to escape my own affection for him. I was aware, yet I chose to remain silent. In the days that followed, a whirlwind of evasion and uncomfortable conversations ensued. Adam tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, yet the palpable tension between us was unmistakable. Each encounter was akin to traversing a tightrope, and an unsettling sense lingered that something was bound to break. That item made its entrance one evening as we tidied up following dinner. Adam had remained unusually silent all day, his movements controlled and deliberate. While I loaded the dishwasher, he casually leaned against the counter, observing my movements. "Mom!" he burst out suddenly, breaking the stillness that enveloped the room. "I have something to share with you." I pivoted to confront him, my heart pounding in my chest. What could it be? "I can no longer continue this way," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I can no longer maintain the facade that everything is all right. Adam, we've talked about this," I said, but he merely shook his head. "Indeed, it seems there is a misunderstanding," he replied, his voice elevating. "It's impossible for me to just switch off my emotions. I can no longer maintain the facade of being okay when, in truth, I am not." "What would you like me to do?" I asked, my irritation bubbling over. "What do you anticipate I might say?" "I find myself uncertain," he replied, his voice trembling. "I simply require your gaze and comprehension of the profound way this is unraveling me inside." "I perceive your presence," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Each day, Adam, I find myself confronted by your presence, and it pierces my heart to witness you in this state. Yet, I find myself uncertain about the solution." He advanced a step, his eyes fixed intently on me. "It remains unsolvable," he whispered gently, "yet perhaps it isn't necessary for us to do so." I gazed at him, my mind swirling with a flurry of thoughts. "Adam, what are you trying to convey?" He remained silent. Instead, He closed the distance between us, his hand lightly grazing mine. My breath hitched, and the atmosphere surrounding us crackled with intensity. Yet that fleeting moment slipped away. I withdrew, cutting the ties that bound us. "No," I responded with conviction, my voice trembling. "It is not possible for us to do so." His visage was a canvas of despair, each crease etched with anguish. Apologies escaped his lips before. As I turned and walked away, I felt my heart racing within me. The burden of recent events pressed down on me with an undeniable force. No matter how hard I attempted to suppress it, a part of me had reacted to him in a way that filled me with more concern than anything else. I pondered the evenings we had shared together. In recent days, his hands had found their way to me more often than before, and I realized that I, too, was drawn to him in the same manner. It seems to me that he too noticed it, which likely prompted him to start the conversation. Yet, the days that followed that moment in the kitchen felt akin to traversing a tempest, chaotic and overwhelming. Adam and I have distanced ourselves from each other more than ever before. In those fleeting moments when our eyes met, the quiet between us conveyed a depth that words could never capture. I convinced myself it was for the greater good, that the space separating us was precisely what we required. Yet, each time I witnessed him withdraw to his room, catching a fleeting glimpse of anguish in his eyes, it wrenched at my heart. Nights were consumed by the repetition of that scene. His gaze upon me, the weight of his words, and the treachery of my heart in that ephemeral moment of intimacy. It was not accurate. It certainly was not. Yet, dismissing the intricacies of our feelings appeared to intensify the harm. Adam stepped into the living room one evening as I was engrossed in a book. He paused at the doorway, uncertain of his reception. His hair fell in untamed disarray, and his expression held a note of wariness. The moment had arrived to reveal my true feelings to him. "Adam," I spoke softly, my voice barely above a whisper. He gazed upward, striving to maintain an expression of neutrality. "Greetings," he has replied. "Hello there." He ventured further into the room, yet he refrained from taking a seat. Instead, moving deliberately near the edge of the coffee table. "Text, I wish to speak," I remarked, casting a fleeting glance at him before averting my gaze. "It is clear that we have faced challenges together." He nodded, then gently closed the book and set it aside. "Indeed, they have. But mother," he elucidated, "I want you to understand that my care runs deeper than you might perceive." He ceased his restless pacing and pivoted to meet my gaze. "I understand your concern," I elaborated. "This is precisely why it proves to be so challenging. For the simple reason that I cannot release my grip. No matter how hard I strive or how often I urge myself to move forward." He began, "Mom," yet I lifted my hand. "Allow me to complete my thought," I insisted. "I have dedicated considerable time to unraveling the reasons behind my current feelings and the underlying issues that plague me. Yet, as I ponder further, I come to realize that there is nothing inherently wrong in embracing love. Could it be? Regardless of whether it adheres to the norms, regardless of the fear it may evoke." I choked back my own words, striking a deep chord within me. "Love is not a mistake," I articulated with care. "Yet, there are moments when it becomes imperative to act, particularly when the well-being of those we cherish is at stake." He nodded slowly, as though he had foreseen the reply, yet still required the confirmation. "I understand that," he uttered those words. "I do. What am I to do with these emotions? Enter them? Act as if they are not present?" "No," I finally responded, shaking my head in disbelief. "I, too, have something to confess, and there's no need for pretense. I share this with you solely to assist, to guide your feelings towards a path that fosters your growth. This is not something that will hinder your progress." He collapsed into the chair opposite me, his shoulders drooping in defeat. "It's one thing to say it, but quite another to actually do it, Mom. Pray, share with me your secrets. What burdens weigh upon your heart that you wish to reveal?" "Indeed, Adam," I responded gently, "I trust you have noticed that to a certain degree. In recent nights, we have found ourselves sharing the same bed." He paused, silence enveloping him as he contemplated his response. To my utter astonishment, He let out a small laugh. "What are your nuances?" he inquired. "Indeed, I took note of that," he responded. "Yet, I reassured myself you acted with the intent to uplift my spirits. Honestly, they leave me feeling adrift. They evoke a sense of proximity to my aspirations, yet the distance remains palpable." "You are not lost," I said, leaning forward. "You're navigating your path, and that's perfectly okay. Such is the journey of maturation." He gazed at me, a raw vulnerability shimmering in his eyes, stirring a deep ache in my chest. "I don't want to lose you, Mom," he declared. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you." "I will not," I replied with conviction. "No matter the circumstances, my presence will remain steadfast. This is destined to remain the same." Unbeknownst to him, my heart raced wildly within my chest. I had yet to reveal my true feelings to him, that those touches were not solely for his pleasure, but stemmed from a yearning deep within me. I made a firm decision to ensure he would no longer come between us. I found myself yearning to untangle my thoughts and express the emotions that weighed heavily on my heart. "Allow me to complete my thought, Adam." I remarked that those touches were not meant to evoke any sense of pleasure in you. What he asked, I replied that I did it because I was experiencing something too. "Indeed, there remains a sensation within me, Adam. My heart trembles at the thought of revealing this to you, for I am your mother, and it seems so inherently misplaced. It seems almost surreal, the depth of our feelings for one another, yet I cannot bring myself to deny it." He held his silence for a moment, then leaned in closer, his hand finding its way to my leg. I informed Adam that this was not something we could pursue. "What of father?" "We can," he murmured. "It is a secret best kept hidden." Yet, I observed a flicker of uncertainty in his gaze. I leaned in and pressed my lips against his, savoring the moment, though it was fleeting. I was aware that success was beyond our reach, and I sensed his uncertainty as well. I distanced myself from him. "Let us embrace a restful night and engage in conversation come morning." "Understood." He nodded, yet an unspoken understanding lingered between us, a palpable tension that refused to fade. We both made our way to the restroom, brushed our teeth, and readied ourselves for the night ahead. As I slipped into my pajamas, I cast a smile his way while he tended to his face at the sink. In recent weeks, I have found myself largely confined to my bed. Since the very first night of his confession, we had been entwined in each other's embrace. Thus, it was only fitting for him to accompany me. Moments later, he stepped into the room, and just before he reached the bed, I pulled back the sheets, inviting him to climb in. As I mentioned before, the tension lingered on. I suggested we take a moment to rest, promising that we would discuss everything in the morning, before Dad comes back. Very well, he responded. It seemed he had come to terms with the idea that nothing would unfold, yet I certainly had not. Regrettably, I switched off the nightlight and whispered, "Good night, my dear." She averted her gaze from him. "Sweet dreams, Mom," he replied. My thoughts were in a tumultuous dance. Moments stretched into what felt like an eternity. My thoughts were in disarray. At a certain moment, my foot lightly grazed his leg, a blend of intention and serendipity. He remained steadfast, refusing to turn away. And before I knew it, I had pulled him nearer to me. He seized my leg. I pivoted on my heel. I took a moment to reflect, yet ultimately surrendered to the unfolding events. Our lips met, and we ventured beyond that moment. I shall refrain from elaborating on the events that transpired, yet I succumbed to my own indulgences. In that fleeting instant, I experienced a profound sense of vitality. I might be able to cast aside all the troubles that had weighed on my mind in the weeks gone by. With my eyes shut, I surrendered to the embrace of the moment. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, a sense of vitality coursed through me. This was not incorrect. It was not so perplexing. It was love, unadulterated and direct in its warmth. It was a love that blossomed effortlessly between us. Years steeped in care, trust, and understanding are now blossoming into new growth. I held onto that belief during our time together. Yet, just as swiftly as it commenced, it came to a halt. Perhaps it proved to be overly stimulating for him. As Adam retreated, A smile graced his lips, directed at me. "Everything is all right, isn't it?" I nodded and set forth. The ensuing weeks unfolded with a surprising ease, almost as if they were meant to be better. Adam appeared to be more relaxed, yet there were moments when the animosity between us resurfaced. With his father's return, he found himself drawn outdoors once more, reconnecting with friends and rekindling the passions he had once set aside. Over the past year, I have delved deeply into my routines, discovering solace in the modest daily tasks that propelled life forward. Yet, despite my deepest desire to embrace the notion of healing, the lingering undercurrent of our past remained ever present. An unseen bond tethered us in ways we could never fully evade. I have yet to share with my husband what transpired. Neither Adam nor I have broached the subject. I'm at a loss for what actions to take or thoughts to entertain. How do you feel about this? I am eager to explore the viewpoints of others. This is the reason I feel compelled to share this tale. What transpired is beyond belief, yet I find myself unable to refute it. Moreover, the events that have transpired are irrevocable, and I find myself unable to alter their course.